What is up, everybody? I apologize for the weird angle. Had my camera in the car, figured I'd pick it up and give an update and then lead into this video where we're at now. Left the last video off with what someone would call a cliffhanger, or just a lack of resolution. Corvette's been sitting, the motor's in it, everything's wired up, plugged up, no crank, no start. Battery's been tested. We had an electrical engineer come out and check the car. I know it sounds like a lot, but in general, it's an electrician that works for GM. Just to make sure that I had my grounds correct, the starter was wired up properly, make sure that the fuses and relays were working, because I just don't have the time right now to keep investing in between my days to go out there, move a wire, test a wire, start, try all that. So this guy's worked on my truck in the past and solved some electrical bugs in my truck when Chevy or GM has pretty much just pushed me to the side. So I trust his judgment. We just left the Chevy dealer down south of me here, essentially last Friday, or last Thursday, better said. We had the electrician come out, take a look at the car, do some diagnosing. Fuses pass the test, power and ground pass the test. But what we initially found was his OBD or Tech 2 was receiving no communication from the ECU or ECM, however you want to call it. We looked at all the wires, make sure it didn't have a grounding issue or anything like that. We checked that there was proper power and ground going to the ECU. But what we found is that 5 volts that need to go from the ECU to our actual engine harness sensors was not being relayed back, meaning the ECM potentially is dead, not sending any proper signals to anything to go into a crank function or operate in general. So we called up a couple Chevy dealers that he has a business account with. He was able to source us a new ECM. Now, you have other options. You don't have to go the GM route like I did. You can obviously source one used off another car, but obviously you're gambling, if that one is operational, or what the condition that one's in. Or you have the aftermarket route where you can have shops, or websites that have either rebuilt them or repaired them and then now reselling them for a lower cost. In that moment, did a quick search. They were going from like $180, $200 for these off-brand sites that were reselling repaired ones and stuff like that. With the GM discount from this mechanic, he gave it to me. His cost was about $350, $344, things like that. So for me, for an extra $140 or $100, it was more a thing was okay. For $100, I get to sleep a little better at night. Let's just get another one back. Let's get one from GM. Let's get it programmed, and let's see if the car starts. So we're on our way back now. We're going to wait for the GM electrician to come back. He'll go ahead and recalibrate it to the vehicle and see if we get a crank condition. So let's go.
A few moments later.
Whoa.
¡Ey!
¿Con coche y todo para adentro?
Sí, todo para arrancar. Vamos a ver si no liquea. Si va a liquear, te digo, aguanta. Dale a ver.
Ok, coche para adentro.
Ok. Aguanta. Está liqueando gasolina.
Alright, well, as you saw, we finally have a starting Z06 again. It is a breath of fresh air. We're still not 100% in the clear. The car's still not ready to hit the road, or even worse, hit the racetrack. But we are leaps and bounds ahead now in getting our optimism back and getting this car back out on the road. We started it up, had to cut it immediately because we had a fuel leak right above the spark plugs on the fuel rails. You don't want that because that can go kaboom. And then there goes all the progress. So gonna tighten that up, gonna start tightening everything up, put the mufflers back into the car, and then essentially I will have to wait till Saturday to start it. You guys will have to wait the next 5 minutes to actually hear this thing warm up and get to temp.
Go. Sounds happy at all. Sounds like I got a pretty something tapping, unhappy.
On old Vader to Z06 here. It's been a couple weeks since the last video update on this car, and though I've been posting some quick in and outs on Instagram, follow me if you're not already, Slow Joe Racing without the W and the slow. Some updates on where the car stands today. Usually the YouTube's a bit more planned out, where I could talk in more detail about what's going on, but for the quick updates, definitely follow the IG. Now, let's go back to where we last left off. When we last left off, we had the engine back in the car. We went to crank it. We were getting a no crank, no start condition. No matter what we did, no matter what wiring we played around with, we couldn't get it to start. We couldn't even get it to respond to the clutch or anything like that. Long story short, we hired a GM electrician to come out here and just make sure that I wasn't screwing up the wiring. He confirmed all the powers, all the grounds were correct. But with me toying around with wiring, I hurt the ECU to the point that it was dead. So that led us to ordering a new ECU for Vader. Now, we talked about it in the last video, a couple options you have. You can always find a used one, but you got to hope it's in good condition. You could buy a refurbished one, or you can go back to the OEM. Price point wise, because the GM electrician gave me his cost for the product, it was like $100 difference. So I went with the OEM option. Went ahead, we placed the order for the OEM ECU, drove, picked it up, put it in the car, had the electrician come back out and reprogram it, and voila, we had startup. Now, of course, in typical fashion here, it wasn't just any startup. This thing was spraying fuel like a nitrous tank in a Fast and Furious movie. The fuel was actually almost hitting my truck on the outside of the driveway. So we had to cut it. We didn't let it run. We didn't do any more programming on it because I had to fix the fuel line situation. That's all been fixed up. Fuel's nice and tight. So then we finally decided over the weekend, my wife and I, we rolled it out just in case, you know, I did put this thing in myself. Anything went wrong, a fire or anything like that, it wasn't inside the house and potentially harm the family and the home. Rolled it outside, pushed the clutch back in, start her up, and man, did it sound mean. But it sounded so mean that I had what at that time I assumed was lifter tap. And I was immediately sunken dead because I was like, man, I've gone through all this mission to save the money, to take the motor out myself, put the motor back in, bit off way more than I can chew to do this myself. And here I am, my biggest fear and why I didn't hand build the motor myself was I go to start it and something mechanical is wrong. I send the video to my builder of what I at that time assumed lifter tap. Spoiler warning, wasn't lifter tap. And it's not necessarily recommended to do that over video. Why? Because with the digital video, right, you're recording off of a device that's not necessarily going to capture, one, where the actual sound is coming from, right? It's very hard to determine that by just a video. Most of the time, it's even harder to determine that by just standing next to the car. There's tools to help you figure out where that's coming from. Plus, there's a lot of different mechanical components in the car that if they're either leaking or failing, sound very similar, but their variance in sound is very small and minute that you would only catch if you were standing next to the car. So he goes ahead and he mentions, hey, you might be right. It might be a lifter tap. We check oil pressure. Oil pressure on this thing was freaking cranking. I mean, this car used to idle at 20 PSI. It now idles at 51 to 53. And on 20 PSI, that was me running between a 40 weight or a 50 weight oil. This thing's on the factory 30 weight right now just to kind of break it in. So imagine if I increased the viscosity, the oil pressure on this thing would be absolutely nuts. We knew the oil pressure was good, so we wanted to go ahead and get the car, at least go around the block, to make it around the block so we can try to charge up the lifter. We assumed the lifter maybe didn't have enough charged, oil wasn't passing through. But that kind of went against what we did during the build out, which was we primed the system. So all the rockers showed oil coming out before we ever cranked this motor. But whatever, in that panic, in that fret, you want to go ahead and kind of follow that same steps and see what you want to do. I didn't get to test drive it for the next couple of days because the tune was extremely out of whack. Now keep in mind, this car has a much larger cam and has a different compression, heads are ported, intakes ported. There's a lot of different things going on in this car. And now I got a factory ECU in here with none of my original tuning, which even that tuning would have been off, but it would have been a lot closer than the factory setup on this car. So drivability was absolutely ass. So we did try to just drive it up and down very close around here. And then we eventually said, you know what, let's get the tuner out here. Let's put my old tune back in it. That won't get us to where we need to be, where like the car's fully dialed in to go on a pass. But that'll get the car a lot closer that we can just drivability wise drive it without any other, you know, with better drivability. There would still be concerns. We wouldn't be able to flat it out, but that wasn't our intention anyways. We had the tuner come out. He sent out his one of his guys, and they, you know, basically flashed back the original tune that was in the car with its old cam and its old setup. And the car was night and day. And startup, everything has been better since then. It's still not 100%, but it's much closer. When I had the tuner come here, he's built motors in the past. He's an LS guy, just like a lot of us are on my channel. And he sat in the car and he's like, buddy, you just have a pretty shitty exhaust leak. And I'm like, there's no way, dude. That thing sounds like it's tapping away. He's like, yeah, because you have a really bad exhaust leak. After he left that night, I went ahead, bought brand new GM OEM gaskets. Realized I had the driver's side one upside down. The GM ones actually have an arrow on them. The ones that I had aftermarket didn't have that. And I guess with the rush that we tried to push that night to get the car started, I put the driver's side upside down. Put the gasket on, boom, instantly quieter. Now there is still a little bit of an exhaust leak that I can see, but I do think my headers might be slightly warped because I've always kind of had somewhat of an exhaust leak on this car. So that's the conversation for another day. So here we are. Essentially today, we have no lifter tap anymore. The car's drivability is actually pretty great. We've driven it. I'll check the mileage on it, but you know, I've done a couple laps around the neighborhood, take my son around the block, and I've gone a little bit further out just to kind of burn out the rest of the gas. The gas in this car has been in here since August of 24.
we're now almost in May of 2025. So that gas is pretty freaking old. So we drained it down as much as we can. And we are essentially waiting for Wednesday. If you're watching this video, whenever you're watching this video is being recorded on Easter Sunday and will go out Easter Sunday. This car will be getting tuned on Wednesday on a dyno. One, we'll love to see the power, and two, we'd love a safe space to kind of open it up properly and see, and finally get it dialed in so that we can drive it. Drivability has been pretty good. Oil pressure is phenomenal. Air temps, great. Oil temps, great. I will say, I burnt up the wideband. That was a stupid situation for me. In one of those days that we were just trying with the lifter tap, we just wanted to get it on the road and see if we can charge it up. And I had the harness for the O2 was just hanging under the car, and we heard it tapping. So I tie strapped it to an area which I thought wasn't going to produce as much heat. I didn't realize that with the tension I created, it was rubbing against the exhaust. Burnt the wire up. It cooked it all the way up to the wideband. I had to put a new wideband in this week. And when I can see with the air fuels, they are a little higher right now. On idle, I'm like 16, 17, 15, 16, sorry. And then while driving, I get around the 14 range. Obviously no wide open throttle pulls or anything on it yet. But if we are all lucky, this thing will get dynoed on Wednesday. Now, I want to say the car's about 95%. There's little things that I'm still unsure about. Little things that we're looking at, stuff like that, leaks and stuff like that. But it's ready for the dyno. It's ready enough for the dyno to just get the tune dialed in. And then it'll go get a track alignment the week after. And then we'll go. And I will be so excited that I'll probably drop a video. I'll be traveling Wednesday, so maybe while I'm in flight, I will work on the video content and put that out because I'll be so excited to share with you guys what this thing makes. Hopefully it's not sharing a bad video, but hopefully it's a really good video. I do anticipate that this car is going to put out a little bit more power than it used to. If you didn't see my original dyno video, this car put out about 539 horsepower at the tire at the time, and that was without E85. Without 12-to-1 compression, and without the cam size that it has it now. The cam is substantially larger. The compression is bumped from an 11 to a 12, so a little bit more compression. We are going to run E85. The heads have been a little bit better cleaned up on their porting and stuff like that. Nothing big deal. Outside of that, everything else done on the car is more for safety purposes. The windage tray and all that, they say it helps keep the motor a little bit happier and can sometimes produce more power. I don't hold those things for more power, but I'm going to put that. I'm hoping this car makes just at about 600 at the tire. Drop your guesses below on what it will put out, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.